because I was the first one in my family to attain a computer science degree. I felt like when I left for maternity and I came back, the whole world has moved on and I know nothing. Confidence is very important for us as individuals, especially as women. Confidence does not mean volume, does not mean you need to be the loudest voice in the room.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on our Female Voices series. My name is Sim and I am the head of content here at Unlimit. I am so excited to have you with us today. Could you please jump in by giving us an introduction about who you are and your career pathway so far?
Okay, my name is Veda Kanala. So yeah, you asked me about a little bit of overview of myself and my career journey and what led me to what I'm doing today. So I want to go back, kind of give like a history of where I come from, what my background is, and what my education background is, and then how I started my career in the industry, and fast forward to now. That would be really nice for people to connect as well when they hear the story. Okay, cool. So I was born into a fairly conservative, lower middle class South Indian family. I come from a very small town in the state of Karnataka, which is southern part of India, for those who don't know, where I did not have any luxury of going to a top-notch school with top-notch teachers, if you like. So there were times when the GCSE equivalent in India is SSLC, 10th standard. We didn't have teachers for some of the main core subjects like maths and science, and that was life, and we had to deal with it. But I did fairly well. As well, the second or first topper up until ninth, and then in the 10th, I lost the top first position for reasons I can't remember now, but I was really upset about it. I'm so proud of my parents for giving me the best they could afford at the time. It's they've done their best. However, because of the situation in our family, my mom constantly paid more attention to making me and my siblings more financially independent. She kind of coached us, if you like, without knowing that she was doing that. And I need to talk a little bit about my mother just to give some background why she is my role model, why I say she is my role model. She's a university dropout, not in English. English is not her first language. It's the local language that we speak back home. And she cannot even have a conversation in English comfortably. And that is her. However, with all of the situations we had in the house, financial struggles and whatnot, she started a school in 1995 with some support from my dad and friends. And today that school educates about 1,000 students from reception to A-level, all the way to A-levels. And she was determined to give us that good foundation no matter what. Like, you need to have good education. You need to become financially independent, because fundamental problems to everything in our lives is like not being financially stable and being independent. And that kind of us being an entrepreneur at that time, English not being her first language, being okay with uncomfortable situations, kind of led me to think she's my role model. I kind of look up to her. If she can do that, I can do it. Like with all the education she has given me. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a background. And my story is not one of those very exciting beginnings like, oh, I was coding at the age of 10 or playing with the Raspberry Pi as a teen. I just dabbled into computer science because I did not want to study biology. We had two options at the time at the college where closer to where I lived. So biology or computer science. And I said, okay, computer science it is, because I don't want to do biology. I just not my thing. So I ended up choosing computer science. That's how I came into the world of tech. And then to call out a few things, I was the first one in my family to attain a computer science degree, secure a job in IT, and I started as a full stack engineer back in 2003 in India, one of the tech consulting businesses, and one of the first ones to travel abroad for work within my family, and someone studied abroad as well. And also, it's very personal, first one to marry outside our community, because that brings a lot of challenges and some of the qualities and the personality traits I'm going to talk about later on stem from all of these things, like being able to question the status quo, being courageous, and all of those, which we talk about a little bit more in relevance to the topic. That's kind of a background of where I come from and what I did, my educational background. So I started working in a consulting firm in 2003, and then I grew up in that company from being almost a graduate engineer all the way to principal engineer, leading accounts, running accounts, working with their execs as their technical advisor, and all of that. That company gave me everything that I needed at the time. They supported me really, really well. And I would say this is all in our hands, how much of that environment we build around ourselves. It's not only the organization, it's a lot as in you as well as an individual to have those conversations and make things work and make a win-win situation as you grow in your career. Because risks, challenges, issues will always come, no matter where you are, who you work for, and at what point you are in your career. So you got to think as an individual, how do I make this work for me and the organization I work for, right? So that was a great organization. But at a certain point, I kind of became very, what you call it, I was getting really bored of doing the same thing over and over again. And I was itching to try something new in a startup environment. But then I have a very young family. I've got two girls, 11 and 8 now, but back then they were much younger. Um, I was really afraid that, can I do this? Can I go and start my own business, A? Or can I go join a startup company in a founding member role? That would be really tough. And I know product startups are not easy. They do take a lot of time from your personal. There's no differentiation between your personal time and work. In fact, that's the way it works, and you have to do it all. I was really not comfortable doing that, but I still wanted to kind of experience what a startup position would be, what a startup role would look like. That's when I made a bold decision. One of the co-founders of the company I work for now, Sahaj Software, had moved to the UK, and he reached out to me and said if I'd be interested to join him and build the organization ground up in the UK. So I almost joined the company as a number two after the co-founder, and we started building the organization during COVID, which is one of the most difficult times for all of us in our industry. But I must say, COVID brought a lot of things to work in my way, to be honest. It kind of brought a level playing field for me as a woman techie, woman leader, where I didn't have to stay out late in the evening and worry about what's happening at home or responsibility. Everybody had the same situation. Everybody was working from home. Everybody had the similar level playing field. So I broke into public speaking at the same time. I switched to a startup company, took on a leadership role, and everything else that we're going to talk about later on happened from then onwards. So now there's no looking back. I'm kind of going in and saying yes to everything that's risky, something new that I haven't done, and that gives me continuous learning, if you like. So that's what keeps me going, to be honest, in my career. Yeah, so I'm just gonna wrap up. Here I'm like talking to you, Sim, today. Thank you for reaching out, sharing my career journey, and hoping to reach out a wider audience and people who are in a similar situation like me. And I'm hoping that they will feel empowered to take on new challenge, learn, grow, and lead in their respective career journeys.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it definitely is something that would inspire other people, because when we look at how many career pathways and ways and means there are to achieve a role that we want to be in, sometimes it can be quite confusing for us. And that's one of the reasons why I love the series so much, because it offers guidance. It shows people that there isn't necessarily the right way of going out and getting what it is that you want to be a part of and what you'd like to achieve. And everything you've just described is clear proof of that. And I mean, thank you so much for the honesty and the sort of rawness about even like your upbringing, because it's a narrative we hear quite often, particularly with like people of color and smaller communities through like migration, first generation. And it's such a phenomenal thing when you see that sort of like first generation achieving education and independence, and it's such steer away from maybe like cultural norms. But I think it's such an empowering journey to be on, and how inspiring, not for just people that are viewing the series, but for your own girls as well. You must be so proud of yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, I would love to know. So I know that you mentioned slightly it was the hatred for biology that steered you away, but what really did spark that interest for you in software development, and then how did you encourage yourself to learn more about it?
Yeah, I would say, as I said, like computer science, I'm naturally a problem solver. And technology and computer science kind of bring in those elements where you have to constantly think about, how do I solve this problem? How do I make it easier for people who are using this technology? Or in today's world, if you like, technology is so intertwined into everything that we do, right? Like our
Mm.
day to day home and at work, everything revolves around technology. So that kind of sparked my interest a lot more. Where if there's so much coolness in using this, how much more cool will it be to actually build these things and build these solutions using technology? What kept me going? Like I said, I dabbled into computer science by chance, not because it was like a strategic thing that my parents did or I did. But then ever since then, it got me thinking, because I'm naturally a problem solver. I like thinking about a bigger problem, breaking that down into smaller pieces and looking at how do I solve this, piecing it all together. And I'm a very, I want to say, very logical person. If somebody cannot give me a logical reasoning why I should do something, I wouldn't do it, no matter what. And this is one of the reasons why I was almost like a rebel in my family, friend circle, everybody, like, everywhere really, because I'm constantly asking for, what is the logic behind your thinking? Why would you want me to do this, or why are you doing what you're doing? So that constantly, and for computer science field, software development nurtured a lot more of that, and I absolutely loved it. I got to, and I'm naturally a very data driven person also. So it kind of all nicely fits in: problem solving, logical thinking, data driven, analytical thinking. All of that kind of comes in together when you're actually thinking about problem solving using technology and the wider software development world. And yeah, that kind of nicely summarizes why I'm hooked to software development career. I'm not very hands on off late, but it's still my role is all around thinking about, how do I solve this problem? How do we can sit together? How will it work for the end users and for our customers?
Mm.
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. I mean, so obviously now you've made the commitment of being in a role, like you mentioned, like during COVID times, you made the commitment to being in a leadership role. You've now been growing with the organization, helping uplift it. I mean, there's so much upskilling and dedication that comes into that. Not only just staying with an organization, but taking a much more senior role, constantly having to develop yourself to guide other people. There's so much that comes with that. How did you find these opportunities for growth, learning new skills, and sort of managing your workload? Because it must have been quite a significant jump as well.
Yep. Yep. 100%. That's such a very, very apt question. So yeah, I'm, like I said, I'm a big believer in saying yes to roles that aren't clearly defined. Especially when I say I want to go experience startup environment, that's a classic where you have a small handful of people, a small team, and you have to do everything. You cannot say, my role is this and I do only this and this and this. So you cannot draw a boundary around what your role is and around yourself. It's very, very fluid in an environment, startup, right? When I step into these roles, I first take a step back to understand the bigger picture, and then say, okay, what are we trying to achieve as a business? And how can I contribute based on my skills and abilities I have today? Now, from there, I then break down those broader goals into smaller chunks, which kind of falls into problem solving, breaking it down into smaller pieces and planning around it, planning all the initiatives to tackle these little bits. And of course, I'm not a lone wolf. I really work with people collaboratively. That's my style. So I work very closely with all the people around me and to make it happen. Now, as you said, it's a massive workload when you have a lot of context switching. When you take on leadership roles, you're not just thinking about one thing and finishing that one thing, which you would do as an individual contributor. When you pick up a leadership role, you are constantly context switching. Somebody will come and ask you something, and then you're thinking about another initiative. You're thinking more strategically about something else in the business, right? So that's hard. And that context switching is very, very taxing. I constantly prioritize, constantly. Like I've got like a little board digitally and also physically like stuck up in front of me, all the stickies and stuff, constantly looking at what am I working on based on the impact, of course, the impact, because there could be 100 initiatives that you could be working on, 100 is an exaggeration. Let's say there's 10 initiatives that you're working on. Not everything is of equal impact. So you've got to understand what is the impact of the, if we finish this initiative, what is the impact? How does my business benefit from it? What do I take away from it? Then you kind of prioritize them in that order, and then pick. And there is always a deadline for things, right? You don't have unlimited time to do everything. So if there is deadline. Based on that, you kind of see, okay, what do I need to do first? What do I need to do next? These objectives, deadlines, impact shared with the wider team and the business, because it's not just me who's doing it. It's the team, me and the team around me are the ones doing it. So we need to make sure we're all aligned on that. And that really helps because you don't have to repeat yourself many times. You don't have to pitch the same thing again and again. You're taking people along the journey. So that's one way is how I manage things. And at the same time, I'm quite proactive in seeking learning opportunities, like whether it's taking on new projects, collaborating with experts in the business, or exploring materials or resources outside of work. And that's always there. If somebody tells me that I don't have time to do my own learning, then you're not doing yourself a favor. You've got to set aside some time, whether it's monthly, weekly, or annually, however you do it. I kind of set aside 30% of my time in a year to do the learning, which is whether it's reading books or listening to podcasts or reading up material on the internet or whatever it is, speaking to people and learning from them. All of that contributes to learning. So that way, you're constantly growing and also applying those learning, the new skills you've learned on the job, because that's the only way you know whether it works or not. Theory is nice in theory, but you need to see whether it works in reality. So that kind of nicely sums up how I look for opportunities and how I manage things and work with the teams around me. I'm a very collaborative person, so I thrive in collaborative setting, and I prefer being the leader. Lone wolf.
Yeah. No, and I think that's also a great sign of leadership as well. Somebody that is trying to bring people together, using their strengths and building on their weaknesses. It's great. And what I really liked about what you said was there wasn't just one source of or one avenue that you were focusing on. You would also be looking at a multitude of different ways to like learn and look for opportunities. Like you said, like taking the say yes approach, whether it taking on a new opportunity, reading a new book. And I think that's really important because sometimes it's not just that we're sort of engaging with people for opportunities like networking, but also we're looking for inspiration ourselves. And that's really important. So something that I would love to ask you about is actually as your experience as a woman in leadership. So being in your role now or maybe previously, what would you say some of the biggest barriers were that you faced and how did you break through those as well?
That's a long list. I would say one of the biggest ones, even today, I wouldn't say from day one, because when you're early on in your career, we are doing pretty okay as an industry. As you grow in your career, it becomes more and more evident. For me, one of the biggest barriers I've faced is lack of women role models within the organizations I work for. Like, even after 2 decades, I still haven't found someone who looks like me, who's in a very similar situation like me, balancing a young family, navigating a leadership role, and having all of those, can-do attitude, pick up the most riskiest opportunity, those kind of things. I've not seen one. Almost when I feel like I found somebody, and then when I talk to them, they're like, okay. Then I realize, okay, their circumstances are completely different to mine. I'm still on the lookout for someone who I can then say, oh, here is the role model I want to look up to. So the only role model I have in my life so far is my mother. But again, she's not in the same situation as me.
Yeah.
But at least I can then say, you know what? I can't be complaining about everything I have. I've had the privilege of studying in English being the not first language, but yes, it was part of my medium of education was English. She didn't have that. So if she can do all of that she's done today, I should be able to figure out and manage things. That's how I'm kind of pushing myself into doing more and more. So that's I think is the biggest barrier for our industry, and that visibility matters, right? Like being able to see people who look like you, who are in a similar circumstances and
Absolutely.
achieving lots of things in their career and then being successful, is very important, and that's the reason why I decided to cut through that barrier and say enough of complaining. What am I doing to my community? Become a role model myself and show other women that it is possible to take on leadership roles regardless of the personal circumstances. Some of the things I've done are like breaking into public speaking labs during COVID. That gave me a massive opportunity to say, you know what, I'm in the comfort of my own house. I'm going to start doing this and start talking to people because I don't have to plan everything around not being at home, not being around the kids, managing everything else around them, and going and speaking at conferences, right? So, and participating in interviews like this one today with you, sharing my experiences with the broader audience that I can reach. And then that way, this message can be amplified. So that's one of the biggest things I would say. Apart from that, imposter syndrome that we all talk about. 10 years ago, I had exactly that, but I did not know there was a term coined in the industry called that. Um, so that was the thing. It's the feeling of when I moved to the UK. I'll give you an instance. When I moved from India to the UK, there was a massive struggle for me. It was like a big cultural change, a big change in terms of the role and how I worked and operated. Everything was different. And suddenly that made me feel like, oh my God, I don't know anything. The group of people I was working with, it's not like they wanted to do it intentionally, but it's just the environment and the feeling. It just made me feel like, what have I done for like 6, 7 years in this industry? When I moved here, it was about 6, 7 years experience. And I felt like I'm starting from scratch again. So in fact, I had to do that to prove myself all over again because these are new set of people. So that fast forward to like only about 4, 5 years ago, I realized there is a term called imposter syndrome for that. But then I was like, okay, we need to break that. It's okay to not know. First step to that dealing with that is recognizing that you have that feeling and then work on it, push it through. And then that was a major turning point for me. And I started ever since I realized that I started being open about, okay, I don't know this. So what? But I'm good at these things. And then play to your strengths and work on your weaknesses is always the best way. I would say that's been a big barrier as well in the past, not anymore. I'm not afraid of saying I don't know things anymore. And then there's this other barriers, I would say, are life choices. Like, and then this is, I know it's individual choice. I'm not suggesting everybody should go down that route, but there are life choices you have to make. Choosing whether you want to get married and have a happy, healthy relationship, you want to have a family, you want to start a family, have young, like, how big should your family be? How many kids do I want to have? Therefore, how many maternity breaks am I going to go on? What happens during that maternity break? Tech landscape is so fast and it evolves so quickly. Like I have had 2 maternity breaks. I took a good 1 year, 1 to 1.5 years both times, both my kids. I felt like when I left for maternity and I came back, the whole world has moved on and I know nothing. And it started all over again. It felt like that for me. But that is also, I feel, was a barrier to me at that time. If I hadn't thought about, it's okay for me to say I don't know and work on what I need to work on, continuously learn, work smart, not just hard, and figure things out, saying yes and being curious and courageous around the environment you're in. All of that really helped me build myself back up through those maternity breaks, and then have thriving career and fulfilling family life simultaneously. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's all hunky dory. There are challenges, but I am here to help if anyone needs help. Happy to share my stories and what I have done, what worked for me, what did not work for me. Like I said before, it's all about creating an environment where you can grow and succeed on your own terms because it's not the same. Before family life starts, it's so much easier because it's just you, right? There's nothing else you need to worry about. It's so much easier. When the family life starts, it's a lot different. you need to start working on your own terms and figure out an environment that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, thank you for sharing. I mean, there's so much to touch on there because I think, well, firstly, the image of seeking somebody that sort of mirrors us in a way in an organization or a similar organization is something that so many people look for, especially because now in career paths, so many people look for mentors and guides and somebody just that can help offer a sense of direction. And it's so often that we hear that people don't feel like they are seeing somebody that resembles them or their story or their journey or their aspirations. And I think that's a massive thing when it comes to tech or STEM as well, particularly for women, because there has historically been such underrepresentation of women, but it's something that we're starting to see the change of now. And it was interesting listening to you because I thought, well, soon you'll be able to watch this edited video as well, and you can come back to this episode whenever you need like a pick me up, because it is so true. People are constantly looking for somebody that aligns to them. But I think in female experience, I'm sure it's the case across all genders, but particularly in female experience from it myself as well, I've seen myself how difficult it can be. And I think that also contributes to the element of imposter syndrome that you've spoken about, because sometimes we're trying to build our confidence or we're trying to upskill, but when you walk into a room, for example, and you see nobody who looks like you, be it gender, race, creed, aesthetic, I don't know if you decided to have purple hair and no one else did, that can be a daunting experience too. And that this is why it's so important that we have things much like where you were talking about, where we are taking opportunities, whether it's public speaking or using platforms like this to really encourage people and show them that not only is the opportunity there, but the presence is there. And that is why now we are creating a shift and people are welcome to join it. Which actually leads me on perfectly to my next question for you, because you are such an advocate for women and leadership in your career, and it's been phenomenal to see, even at the small scale that I've seen it. And I know that internally in your organization, you've been founding the Women in Tech Forum, I believe it's called as well. So what key skills or qualities have helped you grow into a leadership position that maybe other people could learn from, and how can women develop those themselves?
About growth mindset, saying yes before you're ready. And for me, that growth mindset has been a key ever since the beginning, ever since I started as a graduate developer in 2003 and even today. That growth mindset is absolutely the key, I would say. Continuous learning, taking on challenges, seeing setbacks. Seeing all of this as valuable opportunities to grow, I would say is very, very important. It's about willing to step up, right? Even when you're not 100% ready, because that's where the real learning happens. That I would say is the topmost on my skills and qualities, I would say. The next thing is, again, I also touched upon this collaboration over self-interest. We're all stronger together, right? Like, it's not always being just one person. You. Don't be selfish. Leadership is not all about individual wins, right? It's about lifting the whole team, and I'd really focus on setting up an environment where I'm fostering the culture of empathy, collaboration, transparency, and of course, with all of this, you need accountability, right? You need people to make sure that they understand what accountability means. When everybody owns, nobody owns type situation. I'm sure you've faced it and heard of it several times, and I deal with this day to day. When everybody owns collaborative environment, nobody owns things. So you've got to make sure it's very clear to people what their responsibilities are, what they're accountable for, and keep everything transparent. Be open about it. Well, again, we all know that when the team grows and everybody wins, and it's a win for the whole business and you as an individual as well. And that's the mindset I try to encourage and then live and breathe every day. And then I would say confidence is very important for us as individuals, especially as women. Confidence does not mean volume, does not mean you need to be the loudest voice in the room to lead effectively, right? You've got to be a listener and encourage or invite diverse perspectives and thought processes with the people you're working with. Consider all different perspectives and angles and adapt to it. It's not all about what you say. Girls, don't let your ego hurt come in the way. the collaboration with the team you're working with, because you're working with really smart people, and they are working with you because they're smart. And then you listen to them, bring in diverse perspectives, and then adapt. If it means you do something else to what you thought about, that's okay, because someone else had a better idea than yours, and that's completely fine. And that's part of being a good leader, I would say. It's not about dominating the conversation, but it is about guiding it thoughtfully, strategically, and towards the vision you have. So yeah, that's one of the other things I would say. And then the most important one, though it's a little bit down on the list, is showing vulnerability. I talked about this already, right? Like be yourself, being authentic is very crucial. It's okay to say, I don't know. When you don't know something, say you don't know something. We're all human. You can't have it all. Not everybody will know everything. If somebody says, I know everything and I'm the master of it, they are lying. So that is reality, right? So, and it's okay to be there. Us being vulnerable and showing that vulnerability creates a very safe environment for others around us, and that's very important. And they'll feel more comfortable to share the similar perspectives, and you're building a psychologically safe team, and which then fosters your trust and also tackles imposter syndrome to an extent, right? So you're encouraging that kind of an environment. And I also talked about curiosity. It's a very, very, very powerful tool. So always have it in your bag. Be curious. Ask questions. Asking questions does not mean you are less smart or you don't know things. It just means you are challenging the status quo. You are being logical. You are trying to open up new perspectives. You're staying open to new perspectives by asking questions. It helps us learn and grow, and encouraging others around us to do the same, right? So that's one of the things. One of the things I learned: don't ask questions because you want to be noticed, and that's the worst thing to do. Ask genuine questions because you're genuinely curious. And then finally, I always have the people first mentality. I don't treat people as just resources, and that's the worst thing. Everywhere I go, every team I work with, I correct this first term. When people say, we don't have resources to do this work. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Resources, what does it mean? We don't have capacity. We don't have people to tackle this challenge at this point. That I've corrected it. People go, oh, that's very subtle. Why are you being so picky? And I'm like, yes, I'm being picky because people are people, not resources, right? So that's something I really care about wherever I go. So I do believe in treating people as people, not just resources. From day one, that's the foundation I operate on. And the foundation also, one of the foundational elements is also trust, right? You have my full trust until you give me a reason not to. And if that happens, it's on you to rebuild it, not me, right? So this approach really encourages a very strong, genuine working relationships, grounded in mutual respect and accountability as well. So that kind of doubles on a bunch of things, but I'm hoping that this is something to get out of.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was a fantastic answer. So thank you so much for sharing all of those. I love them all, but I really appreciated the last one as well. I thought that was it has such not only like tropes of like a good leader, but just also remembering, as you said, at a human level, like a base level, even in professional spheres, we are all still people. And I think that's so important. And that is one way to build such a strong team, because people feel recognized not just as teammates or employees, but as their individual selves. So that's wonderful. Speaking of individual selves, I mean, as you've told us so far, there is so much you've been working on. So whether it is building your career, your position as a mum and like leading motherhood, being Digital Women of the Year at Digital Women's Awards, there is so much that you are doing, and also trying to maintain that sense of self, like that you are still also an individual, as you just mentioned. How do you work to create balance for yourself in juggling all of those roles? And when you feel like depleted, how do you replenish your cup?
Amazing. So yeah, that's a tough one. Balance.
You're like, what is balance?
You got to start finding more balance. So in my world, I mean, I don't know if people like it or not, but that's the way it is for me. I am flexible so that I can demand flexibility. So you can't just ask for flexibility to make things work for you. You've got to be flexible. What that then means is you cannot have a clear separation of line between oh, I'm only in a 9 to 5 job. Don't bother me before 9 or after. But it doesn't work in my world. In my world, I've got certain things I need to do for the day, certain outcomes I want to achieve by the end of the week, end of the month, the quarter. I will make it work. And I need the flexibility. Let me work on my terms, right? And planning, constant prioritization, I think that's balance to me. For me, I define balance as constant prioritization, delegation, and planning. And being upfront about what I can and cannot take on. And I'm open and transparent with people I work with, right? Setting realistic expectations so that people know what I'm working on, what I'm not working on, what I cannot work on is very clear to everybody. Nobody's making assumptions. Right. And then there are times when this happened last year. Really, really tough time at home. My daughter was doing 11th class. We had to support her. That's another day story if I were to go into that. But it was really, really tough to handle. At the client, the situation was very, very tough as well. Like, again, this whole tech world, technology is the easiest part. People, culture are the most difficult ones because we're all humans. We all come at emotions. Computers don't. They do what you tell them to do consistently. They produce the same output given the same input. So it's, the most difficult part is people. So I had lots of difficult situations at work, at home last year around this. So I went back to my team and said, you know what? I can't handle this right now. I know I've had all of these things in my leadership role up until now, but I cannot do it all. I need to prioritize only one thing for the next quarter. And that's all I can do at work. I need to let go of the rest. But that does not mean I'm giving away my leadership role. It just means I'm showing my vulnerability and I'm accepting that I cannot do all of this right now. I need time. I'm prioritizing this one thing. I'll come back to it when things get better with my and that's completely okay. And I've done it as an example. If someone needs more details, I'm happy to have a chat about it. And that works wonders, trust me. Nobody will see that as, oh, she's not able to handle stress. She's not able to handle workload. It's not that at all. Be clear in what it is, prioritize, and speak with confidence. And it's okay. Give yourself that permission, to step back sometimes. It's very, very crucial for our health and well-being as well. You don't want to wear yourself out. What really keeps me going, Sim, is when other women in tech reach out and say that I've inspired them. They've heard me speak, or they have spoken to me, or whatever, right? Whether it's a client situation or outside client offices, within my office, networks, communities, they come up to me and say, "You've inspired. Your story is very inspiring. You should totally start a podcast." That's another conversation for us. And then all they have said, I am thinking of starting a career in tech. And that's great. And I'm like, okay, what do you need from me? I'm happy to help. I'll make time. No matter how busy I am, I'll make time. And then then that then helps them to become also the thought about becoming financially independent, not just linked to the career in tech, but general thought of becoming financially independent. Or I'm thinking of stepping into a leadership role before I'm ready because I've heard you speak and I think I can do this. All of those, knowing that my journey has helped someone say yes to an opportunity, whatever that opportunity might be in their respective circumstances. Otherwise they would have let go of, is what truly reflects.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can see completely why, because it's such an empowering thing knowing that, like you said, the representation that you're looking for, you haven't seen it yet, but knowing that you are that for somebody else, it must be such a rewarding thing. But no, thank you. All of those were really wonderful examples. And I think it was quite interesting how you mentioned the example of going back and saying, actually, like, my capacity is here and I need some breathing space. I know that usually I can take on X amount, but at the moment I can't. And I think that's actually something that so many people of all levels of seniority would be quite scared to do. So it's wonderful that you felt comfortable, not only in your organization and yourself, but as a professional, to say, I know that I'm a leader. I know that I can achieve these things, but right now, like, I have something else that I have to prioritize. And I think that's worth acknowledging, because so many of us would be hesitant to do that. That actually brings me on really nicely to my next question, because it's looking at women who are trying to build a leadership career, much like yourself, like step into a new position, step into something more senior, maybe out of their depth. What advice would you give to them if they are struggling to build confidence and sort of step in, especially in roles and industries like our own, which may be a bit more male dominated traditionally?
I would say start with a thought of, I can do this, can do attitude. Do not underestimate yourselves. Don't let anyone bring that doubt in you, right? Like, kick that imposter syndrome out of it first. Um, start with, I can do this. It's fine. You're sort of throwing yourself in a deep end. That's okay. You can do it. We're naturally problem solvers, like I was saying earlier. We have it in us. Different roles we play, whether it's tech, personal life, social setting, whatever it is. A lot of people look up to the women around them in different capacities to help them break that problem down, help guide them towards solving it, if not themselves solving it. So we have it in us. All it is you got to embrace that continuous learning mindset, like I was saying earlier. Stay true to yourself. Say yes to opportunities even when you don't feel completely ready. Throw yourself in the deep end. You'll figure it out. Break through the barriers and look for new risky, ambiguous opportunities within the setting you are in. That is where the learning happens, and that is when those are the situations that will give you opportunities to grow. If I can do it, so can you. That's the attitude I had with my mom. If my mom can do it, I can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So can you. You're not alone, right? You're absolutely not alone. So I'm always happy to coach, mentor, or just be a sounding board if anyone is looking for support and help. Um, yeah, like I said earlier as well, like seeing other women step up, succeed in their leadership role is what truly fills my cup.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you. I think that's so wonderful. And I love the fact that you keep bringing the narrative of like your mum being such an inspiration for you into it as well. It's so wonderful that not only to have somebody that you can look up to, but being it as your motherly figure as well. It's such a wonderful thing. And I think it's so important. I mean, it's sort of like a sideways question, but I know sort of you've talked so much about confidence, building confidence as well. Like you must have had experiences or points yourself where you were maybe lacking in confidence. Like, how did you re-motivate yourself and force yourself to say, okay, I'm going to continue with my ideology that I want to say yes to opportunities? How did you do that?
The way I see it as, if you have done something that you were not comfortable with and you have failed or did not succeed,
Mm,
you need to learn and grow. That's okay.
fair.
What you hear outside on the internet or wider world, when you meet people, communities, and corporations, you hear only the success stories. People don't talk about failures because there's a hell lot of those. Like if there's one success story, I'm pretty sure there are at least 10 situations where they have tried something and they have failed, but they have not stopped doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And it's a chance to learn and grow. Every setback and failure is a chance to learn and grow.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the only way. Don't be afraid. If someone's not done anything new and they keep succeeding, doing the same thing over and over again, that's not growth in my view. So if everything went smoothly always, then there's no real learning involved. That's whether it's I'm writing some code and that works the very first time, done, boom. Why would I even bother looking into how do I do this differently? How do I make it a bit more faster? How do I make it a bit more innovative? How do I make it a bit more? Those things will never happen if it worked the very first time. So if things don't work the first time, that's great, because then you're frustrated. You're like looking for better ways to do things, looking to improve. You become more creative, you become more innovative. So it's always a good thing. It is frustrating and disheartening when things don't go as you plan, but I would say the flip side of it is always a positive thing. Always, always, always. When it comes to risk, right? There's lots of risks in our careers, honestly. So the truth is, there's always some level of risk in everything we do. Whether it's launching a new project, you're starting with a new team, or you're just going for a walk, right? As simple as that. The key is to accept it, not avoid it. Think about potential risks upfront. Have that time to think, because that is the most important thing. Think about those potential risks and plan how, if this were to happen, how am I going to deal with it? What are your mitigation strategies? That is important. And that way you're prepared to handle whatever comes your way, whether it's work or in personal life. The example I gave you earlier was like, oh, I don't want to go for a walk because what if I get hit by a bus or some cyclist runs into me and I fall and I break my, you know, those things can happen. There is risk in every little thing that you do and every big thing you do. So that means you can't avoid it, right? So for those who are really hesitant and very risk averse, I'd say don't wait until you're 100% ready. You will never be 100% ready, nor will I be. Take the leap, learn along the way, trust that you are capable of figuring it out as you go along. And that's where the real growth happens.
No, that's amazing advice. Thank you. I think so many of us are hesitant or afraid when it comes to taking like new opportunities in the careers, and it can feel very risky. So that's fantastic advice and such a strong way to end our time together. I can't believe that our time has flown by so quickly, but I am so thankful to you for making the time to speak with me and sharing your story with us at Unlimit and all of our viewers as well. It's been such a pleasure. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on your Female Voices podcast.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.